Hello, listeners. It's AZ, and welcome to episode 82. Today, I sat down with my friend Lee Throckmorton, who is a very interesting guest. Lee is a recently retired firefighter. He was trained in law enforcement and served as an arson investigator. And then he also did 20 years in ocean safety, Baywatch. Anyway, Lee had a very interesting and successful approach to firehouse fitness while he was an officer, and we talked extensively about that, as well as his methods for training candidates in the fire and law enforcement communities. As always, please give us a rating, a review, and share the podcast with someone you know that will enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hello, Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast listeners. It's AZ, and I'm here this morning with Coach Lee Throckmorton. Please, Lee, say hello to my people.
Hello, people.
Hello, people. I like that. So, quick backstory. Lee and I are new friends. We just met this year at the NSCA Tactical Annual Training on our way to the Tactical Special Interest Group. And so we had a quick conversation prior and then followed up with some emails. And as usual, now we're best friends. So welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you.
So I'm going to get started with the rapid fire, bright, shiny light bulb questions. And listeners, just so you know, Lee had a practice episode. We didn't have great recording technology. Sometimes it just goes awry. So this is take 2. So who is Lee Throckmorton?
Who is Lee Throckmorton? Let's do it. We'll do a past, present, and future. Past, I'm a recently retired 30-year firefighter and public safety in a few different ways, a few different occupations. I'm currently a teacher and entrepreneur, and in the spring, I'm having my first child. So I will be a father. That's who I will be come March. So that's the past, present, and future. Who am I?
Well, and Lee, when we talked about this last time, one of the things that we're going to dive into is sleep. And you are finally having this wonderful pause during retirement for sleep. And now you're adding an infant to the mix. What were you thinking?
I'd like to think that muscle memory is going to kick in, and I'm going to get right back into the swing of being interrupted in the middle of the night. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know what I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I actually describe the fire service to the layperson or the civilian, whatever you want to call them, as basically you have an infant and that infant has colic and it never grows up. So it's 20 to 30 years of that. That's how I describe the fire service. So I hope that is not your experience.
We will see. I will let you know come April or May. Well, I'll have some additional info.
May the odds be ever in your favor. All right, Lee, what sets your soul on fire?
Well, my feet hit the floor in the morning and I want to learn something. That's what sets my soul on fire, is learning, whether it be learning something cerebrally by either polishing the sword that has gotten dull in a subject that I haven't encountered in a while, or learning something completely new. I'm a voracious learner. Also, I think that attacking something physical is important as well. And I think that your body, as those of us that are strength and conditioning coaches, your body learns something every day. Every run, every yoga session, every weightlifting session, every mixed modal session, your body learns something. And so that's my goal in a day, is to make sure that I learn something academically and do something physically, and carry that with me for the rest of the day.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I just want to let you know that when you get to be the ripe old age of 52, what your body is learning isn't necessarily good things every day. For instance, I think I dislocated my hip last night while brushing my teeth. So
That'll happen. That will happen.
so much pain. I don't understand it. But all right, last question, Lee. How are you changing the world?
Well, I think the most acute way that you can influence the world is bringing a child into it. I think that once that child goes out into the world, I think that that's certainly your influence is gonna carry on. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that I have a positive influence when it comes to child rearing, but more specifically and a little more long-winded, there's professionally there's a group of people, two groups of people that um, I'd like to influence and hopefully change them for the better. And like we talked about last time, I used a archery analogy. And what I'd like to do is I'd like you just to picture the archery target, big round target, maybe 60 feet away. It's got a bullseye in the middle, whatever color, red, yellow, whatever you feel. And in the middle of that bullseye is going to be whatever entrance test a tactical athlete would need. So since we're firefighter centric, we'll call the CPAT the test that we're looking at. And as they're successful in the CPAT, and as they move through the CPAT, they get to fire academy ready, and then they're productive in their career, and then they're healthy and have a long retirement. So that's what's in the center of that bullseye. So we have two different kind of archers that I want to get involved in, and they're at the beginning of that path. The first individual is going to be somebody that doesn't have any arrows in that quiver. So the arrows are going to be strength, they're going to be mobility, they're going to be flexibility, cardiorespiratory endurance. And the reason they don't have it is they just maybe didn't grow up in a physical culture or didn't have good role models. Their parents may not have been into a physical culture. They didn't play sports. And it's not a character judgment. It's just that's where they are in their lives at that point. And maybe they've decided they want to get into the fire service because they think it's a noble career. And they show up for the CPAT and they just don't have anything to fire. They don't have any of those arrows to fire towards a target. So they don't have anything to do to help them get there. So I'd like to help provide some arrows for those individuals to even start firing at the target. Once they get those arrows, though, we have the other archer could have a quiver full of arrows. They've got all the strength, they've got all the power, they've got the speed, the agility. They grew up in the physical culture. They take their health seriously, but for whatever reason, they are missing that bullseye. And it could be just from a lack of understanding of what adaptations they may need to accomplish the test at hand. So for the CPAT, as we both know, we're looking at a mixed modal 8 event, high intensity, moderately weighed. You're under load the whole time. And if you're an individual that is bodybuilding centric, again, not a character judgment, I think that's great. You're probably still going to be fitter than most of the people walking the planet. But if you've done bis and tris, back and legs, and maybe walked on the treadmill a little bit, when you are loaded down with a weight vest of 50 pounds and then 25 pounds on top of that, and you get on a stair mill for 3 minutes, it's going to be game over. And that's only going to be because you have not experienced that sort of discomfort or challenge. So you may have the arrows, but you may be inadvertently shooting at the wrong target or just missing that bullseye on the target that you're aiming for. And I'm hoping to be able to get somebody that's got those tools and maybe vector them into that bullseye, get them a 8-minute CPAT, dominant in the fire academy, productive in their career, and a long, healthy retirement. And that's going to be my goal. So those are the people that I want to influence. I want to give people the arrows, and I want them to take those arrows, and I want them to have a bullseye every time they fire.
Let's stay on that line right now, Lee. And I know this is probably a little bit difficult to answer. So your answer can be shut up, AZ. That was a dumb question. But let's just pretend we have one of those candidates coming in that just has no arrows in their quiver. They have nothing. And in addition to having none of those skills you talked about, they're also moderately overweight. And so what would be your approach, if you can answer, what would be your approach with that person that has no arrows and they're also moderately overweight?
That is, obviously that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. It depends on where they are. But I think the first thing to do is have a conversation about expectations. So we need to make sure that they have the mindset that this is not going to be a magic pill. There's not going to be something that they're going to instantaneously, I'm going to do this for 3 weeks and then I'm going to be ready to go. They just need to make sure that they understand that this is a long process to get them where they need to go most of the time. For most people, even people that have the arrows in the quiver, there's a process to it as well. And give them a big picture as well before they go into it. If they're not sleeping, give them maybe some basic idea about nutrition, what's within the scope of your practice in whatever state you're in, and find out what information they have and see if you can't plug some holes and build that foundation early, and then just brick by brick slowly build on that foundation until they get to where they have those arrows, and then you can start really kind of vectoring those things into the bullseye. But that's the key for me. Once I get them in the mindset of expectations, making sure that they're not sabotaging themselves outside of the gym setting, then I think that we have a really good foundation. And the term that I steal all the time is a low trajectory, distant horizon, and that's what I'm looking for most people. Because if you're injured, or because you rushed it, or it doesn't help anybody. So that's really the big thing. And my company, we talked last time is Kaizen Groundworks, and Groundworks is essentially in the architecture and construction world the foundation to a building, and that's what I'm looking to do is get that foundation set, and then we can just start each layer of bricks, and then next thing you know, you have a skyscraper.
And I want the listeners to understand, because I challenged you last time with the question, which was, why should anyone listen to you? Why should a firefighter or a law enforcement officer even put any stock in what you're saying? I'd love to have you sort of relate your career path, because it is super interesting.
Well, let's see. I just in February retired after 30 years in public safety, and my first assignment in public safety was on a beach in southeastern Virginia. My first uniform was flip-flops, board shorts, sunglasses, maybe a hat, probably not enough sunscreen, but high volume, high tourist oceanfront lifeguard service, where I ended up staying there for over 20 seasons, working my way up in the ranks to a pretty high level there. And what I noticed, and this started at 18 years of age, and what I noticed there was two things. I had two epiphanies pretty quickly. The first epiphany was going to be that I felt comfortable and capable in a emergency environment. And I'm not sure what we want to call that. An incident, call for service, whatever, however you want to characterize an emergency situation. I felt comfortable and gravitated towards being able to be in that environment and helping people. And again, I didn't really have a career path as I was growing up. So the path was kind of there was a lot of brush on where I was going to go once I became an adult. And then once I started to notice that I was comfortable in that environment, that good brush kind of scooted away from the path a little bit. The second part I noticed too was the strong correlation between a provider's physical abilities, good or bad, negative or positive, and the outcomes in those emergency settings. So when you're working at the oceanfront, a lot of times things are binary. Is somebody drowning or are they not drowning? Are they in a rip current or are they not in a rip current? Do you have the ability to get to them in 30 seconds before they go underwater, or do you not? Luckily for me, in my experience in the team that I was on for decades, most of those outcomes were positive because we trained hard and we threw a lot of people at the incidents to make sure that we were going to, as a group, be able to get to these people in time, and the outcomes were positive. But I did notice it could be negative if you don't take your physical fitness and wellness seriously. That could have a detrimental effect to somebody that is trusting you with their health and life. So those two things interested me. How I didn't really have any context, I didn't have any education as far as strength and conditioning goes, but I was very interested in that aspect of things. So as these are my college years, I wasn't really getting into a career, but I went ahead and went to paramedic school during college, and I went to paramedic school in parallel with my college studies, which, to the detriment of my college study, because I enjoyed, ACLS more than I did differential equations. So, definitely was taking a lot of bandwidth into the paramedic program. And, as college progressed, in the accomplishments of college and getting my paramedic came to fruition. It was time to get a job. I had to figure something out, and I was looking at the executive staff of the lifeguard service, who at the time I assumed were elderly, and they were most likely 36 or 37 years old at the time. And it's like, how do these guys and gals still get to work out here? Because we loved it. It was the best job in the world, and we enjoyed the camaraderie. And they were either school teachers or firefighters. That was the path. And I never really had any intention of being a firefighter, but that really is what kind of pushed me in that direction. Luckily enough, a handful of us went to apply for a high tempo urban department about 30 minutes away from where we are, and we were lucky enough to get hired. I think it was two or three of us out of the group of lifeguards went in there and got hired. And to kind of give you an idea of the the city and how it's set up, our department was 500 members, or is 500 members, 50,000 calls a year for service and growing. We had a very diverse occupancy, very diverse residents in the city. So we started out, moving from south to north. We had a naval shipyard, civilian and naval shipyard. We had riverfront, downtown with high rise, which was as far as a metropolis area that was during work weeks, you had all the offices were full from 9 to 5. Interstates, your favorite, interstates running the entirety of the city, 2 universities, an international airport, projects that have been around since the Civil War, Cape Cod's $1 Million Homes. So we had a incredibly diverse group of people that live there, a very diverse set of occupancies. So there were a lot of things that most things that the fire department's going to do, we were involved in for the most part. I was there for 26 years, had a handful of specific jobs within there. I was at a hazmat station for a while, rode the heavy rescue on occasion. They didn't allow me to touch anything on that truck too often because I'm not the most mechanically inclined. But as a paramedic, we spent most of the time doing some EMS as well, and retired as a lieutenant on a pretty busy ladder company in the middle of the city. And so during that time frame, I got to do quite a few different things. Also, we have a pretty robust fire marshal's office, and at the time, I wanted to give that a shot because law enforcement intrigued me. And the way it works for us is they pull you do a promotional test, and they pull the top people out of that list, and they send you to the police academy, and you go to the police academy like you would any other police officer, and you do your field training like you would any other police officer. So you're trained up until the point where you would get in a patrol car and you'd be, running the streets, as a police officer. And then they pull you back and you're doing arson investigation, bomb squad, environmental crimes, code enforcement, that sort of stuff. So I got a really good taste of the law enforcement side of things as well. Our city also bandied about the thoughts of embedding the fire department paramedics with the SWAT team as a permanent part of the SOT team, is what they called it for us. It never came to fruition, and that's mainly because the thought process of arming paramedics. The paramedics wanted to be armed. The SOT team didn't feel that was a good idea. I agree with the SOT team. And it never came to fruition, but we did get some training over the course of my career. And the reason I'm going into such detail about the career is that as now a strength and conditioning coach that's trying to specialize in tactical athletes and prepping them, for that bullseye we talked about earlier, I think to lend credibility to what I had to say moving down our conversation is to let people understand that not only have I've got a robust resume as far as the education goes, but also I've experienced what it takes physically and mentally to each one of those 4 occupations within tactical athlete sphere. I've experienced what it takes to do that. I have, sat in the car for 3 hours and then had to chase somebody jumping fences or understand what it's like to crouch in bushes for a little bit and then go into a stack into a house. Certainly dragged a few hose lines in my day and pulled a few people out of rip currents in the ocean as well. So I feel like that gives me a robust, robust experience to draw from when helping people that want to get into that environment. So that's that's where we are, and I'm using that experience every day to program and help for folks that are getting into the tactical fields.
How was it going to? Because you must have been in your late 30s, I would guess, when you went to the law enforcement academy. Is that accurate?
I feel, yes, it was. I was 30, 37 or 38 or something. I'll be honest with you. I think that everything that I had done, I had a bachelor's degree in criminology, and I was pretty physical, up until that point. So I felt very prepared. And to be honest with you, I really didn't think it was all that taxing, just because I had prepared for it. A lot of people had showed up to the academy expecting the academy to prepare you. And I think that's where things get a little hazy. If you show up prepared, then things are going to be a little easier for you. So I didn't find it as challenging as some, but there were some that were better prepared than I was. So I was hanging in there. I was hanging in there with them.
All right, let's just for 1 second, let's revisit your ocean safety role, because I always want to know, was Baywatch accurate?
Baywatch is a documentary. Baywatch is every bit a documentary. Ken Burns could have directed it. It's exactly how it is for real. And I run in slow motion at the best of times, so it worked out for me because I was always looking like I was running in slow motion down the beach. So, yes, Baywatch is, if you want to know how the life of an ocean lifeguard, just watch every episode of that and you'll have it down.
All right. I already knew that. I just needed you to confirm my biases. So thank you.
Confirmed.
Well, one of the reasons that I was really interested in speaking with you in preparation, I did listen to a couple episodes of a different podcast that you were on, and it really seemed like you have an affinity for developing the camaraderie and the confidence and the interest and the motivation, if you will, to get your crew working out together on duty, which I think is really valuable. So I'm just going to hand the mic back over and say, how the hell did you do it?
Well, we had a bit of a windfall from our department. We had a fitness committee that was developed because there were some concerns about how our department was spending money on equipment. And what the concern was is we were spending, $5,000-$6,000 for a stair stepper for a station. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that the person that was buying this equipment, they didn't understand what was out there, what the best way to spend the money was. And I had enough of a relationship with them that I could call that individual up and say, we're spending $6,000 on one piece of equipment that if everybody at a station uses for 30 minutes at a time, you're looking at, at a busy station, you're looking at, 7 hours to get everybody through using that piece of equipment. And I said, I came up with a spreadsheet of what you could buy for $6,000 for a fire station and how everybody could use it. You could get more bang for your buck. And then that developed into a meeting with the fire chief, and the fire chief wanted to develop a committee so we could have more voices than just mine, which is obviously a great idea. And we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. Towards the tail end, I didn't have as much to do with it as some other folks that worked really, really hard, but we were able to get our stations outfitted with, functional equipment, barbells, bumper plates, kettlebells, wall balls, boxes, dumbbells, that sort of stuff to maybe facilitate a larger group of people working out at a time. And once that happened, it was easy to get things kind of started at the station level. And just because that was my interest, everybody has their niche. You have the hazmat guy, you have the tech rescue guy. I just happened to be the fitness guy at the station, and because I was doing that outside, I had some experience as a coach outside of at the gym as well. But basically, I started working out as openly as possible at a busy time in the day when I knew everybody would kind of be paying attention, and it snowballs from there to where you just move the trucks out of the bay, set the equipment up, make a big show of it, and eventually what's going to happen is it's like little balls of mercury. They're all going to gravitate towards that middle, and what happened and what I've seen happen at multiple stations, it's certainly ones that I've been a part of as a private and an officer, was everybody might not be doing the same thing. Somebody might not be into doing wall balls and box jumps and deadlifts and so be it. But what would happen is we'd have an hour out of the day to where everybody was doing something. So for us, it was 2:00 in the afternoon because we were able to make that work at the station that we were assigned. And they just, 2:00, that was the thing. And I'd write a workout and I'd put it up on the chalkboard in the morning, and, there'd be teeth gnashing all day about it, what we were going to do. And then everybody showed up at 1400. And I'd say 75% of the people did whatever the workout was we did as a group. But then there'd be a couple peripheral people that would, run or, get on the treadmill, whatever it may be. But it certainly was a bonding time for everybody and developed that camaraderie that I thought was the same sort of camaraderie that you would garner at a structure fire. And you can certainly attest to, morale dips a little bit at the station, and then you all catch a fire, and then everybody's, high-fiving and headbutting each other because, of the camaraderie garnered in that situation, as we all know. So I found it to be, we're not fighting fires like we used to, but it was a way to develop the same camaraderie. Oh, and at the same time, you're getting fit, you're able to, as an officer, you're able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of your crew by watching them work out. I knew who was strong. I knew who could run, who had the VO2 max, who had the 1 rep max. So it was also an identifier as well. So we would have our annual physical, and people would be talking about what mets they got now, and that never came up in conversation up until the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And it just became the subject of the station. Other than the firefighting side of it, we would talk about that sort of stuff, and it turned into a fun little exercise every day, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. So anybody that reaches out to me and asks me how to get that going, I just say, you start yourself, and just you start working out, and then the second person will join you, then third person, then the battalion chief will join you, and then it grows from there. And then you've established a culture of wellness in the fire station, and then it hopefully gravitates or expands to other stations, and then to the whole city. And then that's where you're really doing good work.
This is such interesting timing, because the morning that we are recording, it was last night when we had the 7-minute science event. And one of the things that Dr. Jenna Gerstner spoke about was the camaraderie, and specifically how circuit training could be quite effective on duty. It was beneficial for younger firefighters, older firefighters. But the one thing that stuck out to me about her presentation was, if you're only training on duty, you're getting maybe 2 times a week, 3 if you stretch it, sometimes 1. And one of the points that she drove home was, it's really important to try to get more training than just on duty. Did you find that your crews were then training off duty as well?
Some of them, yes. And that's why, and I knew who was and who wasn't. And to be honest with you, I was really getting beaten up myself, because I have a group of legends aged athletes that I work out with every day at 3:15 when I was off duty, and still to this day. And I had to show up for them. And then especially when I was an officer, I wasn't able to say, well, today's my rest day at the fire station. So there were a lot of weeks that I was doing way more than I should. So you got to make sure that's not happening. But if you do have somebody that just works out at the station, I think that you want to make sure, what I would try to do is make sure I vary the energy systems that we were using, because they weren't experiencing any of them. And if all we were doing was a high intensity, functional circuit or something to the like, and that's the only energy system that we were kind of training in, then that could be detrimental. So I tried to kind of spread the workouts out to make sure that they kind of covered bases for all the people that didn't necessarily work out off duty. But and eventually it was surprising to me that once I got people working at the station, how that would expand to their off-duty time. And I had an individual that worked for me that all of a sudden he started posting on Instagram his workouts. I mean, just completely out of character for him, and it became a habit for him. And I'm really proud, and make sure that every time he does that, I make some sort of comment, so he knows that I'm proud that he has taken that, taken those station workouts and done them off duty. So. But I think that you just got to know who you're working with, know who's doing what, make sure people aren't doing 7 days a week, and vary those energy systems at the workouts at the station.
So let's dig into this fitness committee thing, because I do feel like it's important, because in general at the fire department, you have the group of people that don't work out at all, like 30%. You have the group of people that can be pulled along in the right direction. And then you have the group of people that are going to be training regardless. And within that group of people, you usually have a marathoner, a bodybuilder, a strongman person, name it.
Right.
long
Oh, yeah.
distance, ultra distance, swimmers, you've got it all. And each one of those people has a different priority. So if the committee is one, we're only going to get one type of equipment, one type of training. So talk to me about balancing out that committee and how you think the best way to do that is. Because the other thing that I find is that I say this all the time, just because you want to be helpful or just because you're trying to help, you're not necessarily being helpful. So talk about that committee. Give us some great ideas of how you balanced out that committee.
I wasn't in charge of picking who the people were. We had a battalion chief that was we had actually had two battalion chiefs that were they would pick people or ask for interest and then pick people from there. And we tried to make it a diverse group. We knew we had some guys that were lifters, we had some guys that were runners, and we had some CrossFit folks, and so we tried to make sure that we had a diverse group of people within that committee. And what that does, it gives some legitimacy to that, making that a priority. You have the engine committee, the ladder committee, the apparatus committee, the hazmat committee, all the stuff. And what we tried to do was arm people with equipment and information. Because we can't, as you can only, you can't force people to do but so much. It's when you start getting punitive about working out, that's a slippery slope at fire departments. And luckily, I never was high enough of a rank that I had to worry about those big picture things. But that was pretty much what we did. And if we had input from the folks of what sort of things that we think that need to be at the station. All the people in that committee would email each other, hey, I think we should get this. Hey, I think this would be a good idea. And then we just kind of prioritize. And usually money was the big issue, so we could have all kinds of great ideas, but if it wasn't a priority for the people that pulled the purse strings, that made things a little difficult. But we were pretty good. We had a newsletter that we put out giving information to folks, and then they would reach out and contact us. But we would lead by example. So using social media. So if people within our committee worked out at the fire station, they would take pictures or video and we put it up. So the city as a whole could see, hey, look, these guys are making time for it. They're enjoying themselves. They're having fun. They're doing different things. And, there's some camaraderie in there as well. So it certainly was helpful to have, 6, 10, 12 people that, could influence what was being, disseminated to the department as a whole. And I think and that was something I didn't see at first, because really all I was trying to do was just get a meeting with the fire chief and say, here's what $6,000 buys you over here, and here's what $6,000 buys you over here. Well, maybe we could start looking in this direction. And smartly, he made that committee, and that just is the committee is still going, and they're still doing great things, and they're still fighting the good fight as far as keeping fitness and wellness on the tip of everybody's tongue in the department.
As you were talking, I was thinking specifically about barriers to entry, because you mentioned you pull all the fire trucks out. Now, was your equipment already stored out on the apparatus floor, or was it in a closet? Like, did you have to bring it out? How did that all work?
Depends on the station. We tried. The departments now are smartly, taking the apparatus bay and the exhaust situation. I can't speak for your department, but they wanted to limit the amount of activities that are going out. So I had one station that had all the equipment out, in a big square. So it would be an area that you would park a truck. It was all filled with equipment. So it was already there. But if you've got 7 people trying to work out, that's a little difficult when everybody gets crammed in. And we had some stations that had rooms, but of course, none of the rooms were big enough for an entire station to get in there and do anything that in my opinion, that was going to be worthwhile. So a lot of times the apparatus bay was used to just kind of move the stuff out of wherever it was to get there. And I mean, if you have 7, 8 people doing it, it takes no time to move out some stuff, and get prepped for the workout. So that is a barrier, but it's that one's easily overcome.
The episode of the Fire Rescue Wellness podcast that dropped today was about fitness testing, and it came as a result of a conversation in the DMs, and a gentleman reached out and he commented on my post, Shit Firefighters Say. The post was basically about the Gherkin protocol. And he said, his question was just, are you aware that the Gherkin protocol overestimates VO2 max? And I said, yes. And then we had a bit of a conversation about it, which then spurred me to record a podcast about testing. And my bottom line with testing is it's really kind of a waste of time if you're not going to do something with the information. So if you can't explain the results, if you can't tell the person the action they should take due to their testing results, we shouldn't be wasting time on testing. That said, is testing something that your department did? And do you think that it was important? And do you think that it was worthwhile?
Our department did do an annual test. I think that it was I always get it confused, 1582 or 1583. I don't remember which one, but pop quiz. The NFPA, you did the treadmill test. You would do a plank, an isometric pull, sit up, sit and reach, that sort of stuff that was just all individual that they had vetted, that NFPA had vetted to do. And I certainly think it's better than no testing, but I don't feel that it really gave a true idea of where somebody was, because it certainly didn't feel like stretching a hose line into the second floor of a house fire. And I think that if I was king for a day, I would have a CPAT like test to go along with it, which I think has a little more occupational resonance to it than the 1580 or the NFPA test. Give people the information to do something with the test. If it takes you 20 minutes to do a CPAT, what do you do with that information? If your MET score is 10 and you want it to be 15, what do you do about that? And trying to make sure that we have somebody that can answer those questions, and people don't have to go out on their own to try to figure that out. But back to your original question, I don't necessarily think that the NFPA test is as applicable as some things could be, but it's certainly it'll catch somebody hopefully before they find out they have an issue on the fire ground. So hopefully, and if you set the METs appropriately to, in my opinion, our METs were set pretty low for you to have any sort of interdiction from a wellness coordinator. So you want to make sure you have that appropriately set for folks, and then have the ability to give them that information once they finish that test.
Yeah, so the testing protocol that Lee is referencing is the IAFC, International Association of Fire Chiefs Wellness and Fitness Initiative testing. So it's a reliable test that gives an estimation of VO2 max, but the Gherkin protocol does overestimate it. It does some measuring of muscular strength, muscular endurance. And again, if you're going to do something with the information, I think it's an okay test. It's not a job task test, which is a conversation for Dr. Abel, but it is, general fitness. And when someone screens out, they've lost 5 points on their estimated VO2 max, and then you can give them action steps to improve that, I think it's worthwhile. But I think so many places aren't doing that. So thanks for sharing your opinion on that. So I want to be really respectful of your time. So I want to start digging in. You alluded to your business earlier, and I just want to start digging into what exactly is it? Who exactly do you work with? And what does it look like to work with you? I know you do your recruiting for some spots currently. I saw that on Instagram, but tell me all the things.
Well, Kaizen Groundworks, just again, it's an odd name some people haven't heard of. Kaizen is a Japanese term for continual progress, and usually the progress is intended to be positive and beneficial. So we've all heard the term 1% better each day. That's the terminology for that. The term's becoming a little more popular, I'm noticing, of late, but people still aren't. They don't know exactly what it means when I introduce it. And Groundworks, like I said, is a foundation. So we want to continuously build on the foundation that we start early and just kind of build up. We start from the ground and move our way up into to skyscraper level. But we do that. We have a 3-pronged approach to doing that. We have consulting for departments that don't have anybody that's on staff to assist with where to go with their fitness and wellness. So we can, give our experiences, my experience, and the folks that work with me to departments in public safety that want to maybe influence positively the wellness of their firefighters. Second, we have private coaching. So if it can be in person or remote, we're casting a wide net. So we're putting that out there for anybody, worldwide, that we don't have too much of a language barrier with, that is looking to get into the tactical field. We can, they can consult us. We'll, depending on what they need, what sort of athlete they are, what their training age, what their abilities are, we can come up with a 12 to 16 week program for them or more. We can, do some video conferencing. We have, you'll have access to coaches for scaling and movement assessment. And so somebody in Idaho that doesn't have any resources near them to, coaching resources, they can, if they have a well outfitted garage or a gym with some, functional fitness equipment, we can kind of get them where they want to be on a one-on-one basis. And if you're in town, live in the area that I live in Southeast Virginia, we have a gym that we utilize sometimes for in-person training. And what you were alluding to is, I did a group of firefighter cadets or candidates that wanted to be in the fire department. I had about 8 to 10 individuals that did a 20-week program with me to get them ready and through the CPAT and get them ready for academy ready for day one. And everybody that wanted to get a job that didn't have a job was successful, and they are currently in the fire academy as we speak, doing well. I've moved to this group starting the 13th of November. I have a group of 8 to 10 current law enforcement officers that are either wanting to really level up their fitness. Maybe they've kind of slacked off a little bit. And I have a few of them that are starting a SWAT school in March. And I'm looking forward to getting them prepped for SWAT school, so they're not showing up to these schools again like some folks like to do, expecting the school to get them into shape, and then they're using all their bandwidth there and not learning anything or or being capable in that school. So it's going to be a 12 to 14 week, and the fact that I'm having my child in March is pretty much going to make that a deadline. I'm not going to be able to extend that. I had fun with the firefighters and kept them going right up until their fire academy started, but I've got a hard stop March, so I can solely focus on child rearing for the coming months. But that's what we're doing, and we're doing that in-house, and that's pro bono for the folks that want to do it. I kind of feel like that's a way for me to give back to that community, and I enjoy it very much, and it's fun for me to do. So I enjoy doing that. Lastly, we have programs. They are various different types depending on what you want to do. We have and they're in the graphic artist has them now, and they're putting all the cute pictures, and we're currently making videos to go along with them as well, to attach to the programs. But for example, it would be a CPAT strength emphasis. So if you have somebody, the marathoner that you were talking about earlier, that hasn't picked up a weight since the Clinton administration, maybe they aren't where they want to be strength wise. So we have a strength emphasis. We also have a conditioning emphasis for the individuals that have been spending a lot of time doing the buys and tries, and they need some conditioning. We have a tactical GPP prep. We have an 8-week program for somebody that's maybe been on the couch for a little bit and they haven't done really a whole lot of anything for whatever reason, and they need something to get them prepped for a program. We have that as well. So we're eventually going to expand that, hopefully, to wildland, smoke jumper, all the SWAT, law enforcement. So anything in public safety, we're going to try to see if we can help folks get where they want to be. So that's where we are, and that's what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future.
Lee, you said something that really caused my ears to prick up, which was the pro bono piece of it. Personally, I am a great candidate for pro bono because I take full advantage. It doesn't matter if it's a graphic arts freebie, if it's a stretching freebie, I am all in. But what I find is that so many people, if they don't pay for something, they don't put any skin in the game. But it sounds like you got some really, really committed people. What was your screening process to do that? I'm just curious for myself.
I'll be honest with you, it was luck. It's with the fire department group. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people. I mean, I just completely lucked out in it. I don't know if that's, I can't really account for why that is. I really tried to figure out how I got folks with good character. And I'm upfront with people when they come in. So the group of officers that I have coming in next week, I'm very upfront about expectations. I explain to them they're not coming into the dark. They know exactly what the program's going to be. I have it outlined, and I'm very specific about my expectations. Their boss, who I was coordinating with and getting some folks in there, just kind of asked me what I was looking for. And I just said, I want current law enforcement officers with commitment. That's it. I just want commitment. So if they come in and they're committed and they can commit for as much time as they can give in the course of 12 to 16 weeks, we can go from there. That's really what I'm looking for. So, and it was difficult with police because you can imagine the gym that I have is a working gym. So I got to work around the gym hours, and law enforcement, they've got, that was the hardest part, was me to thread the needle between both of those schedules to get folks in. But I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to get a handful of folks to commit, and we'll get them where they want to be.
Kudos to you. I love that. So I'm going to start wrapping up and ask you, was there something that we should have hit on, a rabbit hole we should have dug around in that I did not go down?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everything. We got Baywatch out of the way. That was extremely important.
Extremely.
Extremely important. But no, I don't think so. And if you know where to find me if there's something that we missed that you want to reach back out, and we can certainly touch base in the future.
So, are there any sage words of advice you would like to leave the listeners with?
Trust the process. That is the key. For me, that is trust the process. When it comes to strength and conditioning, it is a process. And the fitness industry has a bad habit of the magic pill and the instant gratification and the 8-minute abs and all this. And people just don't. And when somebody is successful in our program, I thank them for trusting the process. And that's really what if you trust the process, then you'll go extremely far. And you can apply that to pretty much anything. You trust the process, you're going to be successful.
I like it. And then final question. I don't believe we talked about this last time. Forgive me if I forgot, but Lee, do you have a dog?
I do.
Okay, we need to talk about your dog.
He is our firstborn. He is a French bulldog. We're not exactly. He's 6 years old. We're not exactly sure how it's going to go. When we call him Baby A. When Baby B comes, we're not sure exactly how that's gonna go, because we have spoiled this dog rotten for 6 straight years, and he's got a rude awakening. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough life for him. What's his name?
His name is Carl.
Carl. I love it. You're going to need to send me a picture of Carl in the DMs so that I can.
I will do that.
In fact, I may replace your photo on the podcast art with Carl's. It just depends.
I'm often replaced by Carl with many things. That wouldn't be the first.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for giving me a whole hour of your time again. Appreciate it so much. I think everything went super smoothly. So with that, we can drop the mic, and AZ and Lee are officially out.
Bye-bye.